Welcome to Queued Up. Today we have Dr. Stephanie Amaya from Grandview, Missouri, and she has worn many hats in public schools. She's been a teacher, a counselor, a district leader, and we're going to talk today about her expertise and how it is transformed over the years. This is Queued Up, where we amplify the voices of educators with the science, soul, and story shaping education. You've worn many hats. Lots of hats: a teacher, counselor, principal, director, assistant superintendent. How would you say those different roles have shaped how you see schools?
I think each of those experiences has given me a different lens into what is public education. And I feel very blessed to have had them all. I think when I look in the rearview mirror, what I see is it's really shaped me in understanding the bigger overarching picture in public education. And then from my HR seat has really helped me know how to support and lift up and empower the workforce.
Absolutely. And I know when you're leading, it's so much easier for people to buy in when you've been there, you've done it.
Yes. Yes. It definitely has increased my empathy from the perspective of been there, done that. And now how do I help block barriers for you? Yeah, so you can do your work.
And I'm sure it makes it easier for you to believe the barriers because you've lived those barriers.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I think when people haven't done a role, it's really hard for them to conceptualize how difficult that barrier may be for that teacher or that whatever position of it.
Especially when you think of a human-centered philosophy, right? Difficult to see the barriers because even within those barriers, they could be so individualized for a child or for a teacher or for even a classroom.
And it can take on a different view or a different look even within the same school year. So with the support that somebody might need at the beginning may look very different by the end of the school year. That's a lot to manage.
It is, especially for the workforce group. But I'm happy to say that I often say I'm in your service. And I mean that. You know, we're here as leaders to block barriers, to hold people up, to make the work pure in a sense that that's what you need to concentrate on, your kids.
Not the extra noise. Exactly. I like that. So you were a school counselor before going into leadership. How do you think that foundation impacted the way you show up and lead now?
It definitely continued my work in a student-centered, teacher-oriented philosophy. And what I mean by that is it allowed me to learn that everybody shows up in their most genuine, authentic, best self. And in some days, that's amazing. In some days, it isn't amazing, but it's still their best. So counseling really stretched me in that non-judgmental fashion of when you hear me see things like support, block barriers, human-centeredness. And the other thing that it did is it really pushed on my philosophy about helping others and mental wellness. And I believe that in public education, we have to create help-seeking environments where people can ask for help and then we genuinely know how to respond to them.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by help seeking. You know, it's one thing when people ask for help and that's a pivotal moment. If the system or the person in the system doesn't know how to respond in a way, that feels supportive. So I think all of those things really helped develop me as a person and as a professional.
You know, I like that unique path that you've had because I feel like counseling would lend right into HR. Like, it's so much of what you do. It's listening to the person, helping them get their resources, giving them advice. Maybe try it this way. So do you see those aligned very well?
I do. For me, stepping into it, there was a lot of preconceived things about HR people, especially women. I mean, I was in groups where there were labels that probably I can't say here about what kind of woman goes into HR.
Yes.
And being aware of that, I just wanted to just bust that up and say, no, I have a little sticker in my office that I've carried around without the sticky. I've just stuck it on a wall somewhere and it basically says, be good to people. And that's what I anchor to, that you can be in HR and you can be good to people, entering them or exiting them out of the system and still have boundaries and expectations and all the things.
All of it, yes. It's funny you say that. I have a t-shirt that says, just be kind.
Yes.
It's really, that's just the basic basic thing that we need to be doing in life, whether it's HR or in the grocery store. Just be kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a skill, isn't it?
It is, because there's days you don't want to be kind. Because
Agreed.
especially if that person is upset with you, or the agency in which you represent, it's really hard sometimes to keep that emotion out of it.
I think.
Yeah. You've said we never arrive as leaders, we continually learn. What's something that you've learned recently that surprised you?
I learn every day. I think that kindness, all the things we've talked about, genuine intent to be good to people goes a long way. I was recently in a training where I was doing some training, and it was actually around suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked across the room and saw a gentleman that I knew because of my HR privilege of confidentiality, that his wife had had a suicide attempt. So I thought, what can I do? What can I do as I'm up here leading and genuinely dealing with a subject that is difficult but so necessary, right, for our workforce group? So I just simply took a sticky note and said, "This must be difficult for you." And I put a smiley face, and I just very discreetly on a break gave it to her. And so here's what I learned. About a week later, he came to my office and he opened his wallet and he pulled out the sticky note. And he said, "I need you to know how much that impacted me. You just acknowledging my discomfort." And so the lesson was that even in the most simple acts of kindness or recognition or validation, we have a ripple effect. And so I've learned to trust that gut instinct or that intuition when someone's hurting or needs support or even direction or boundaries, to kind of go for it. Does that?
Yeah, it is. And I'm not in HR. Let me preface my question or my statement with that. But I work with adults where I used to work with students.
Yes.
And what I've learned is that the issues that we have as students are the same issues we have as adults. They're just packaged a little different because we know a little bit more about social acceptable things, but really they're human issues. And so I'm sure that education background and that teaching and counselor and all of those things prepared you for this, but it's that learning process. If you don't pick up and cabbage onto those things, then you're not evolving as a provider.
And as a person, right? Because the more I know, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah,
Right? That is wisdom.
it is. And just being able to admit, I don't have the answers. I mean, even in that moment when you were up there in front of the whole room and you're thinking, how do I support him? I don't know the answer, but just taking the sticky note, taking the chance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. We don't always get that feedback. So how do you keep going and doing the things when you don't know if it's impacting you or not?
I think I'll go back to even when I was teaching or a counselor, and I would tell myself, you're planting seeds.
Yeah.
And you don't always know where they're going to grow. However, that's what gives me hope, is that I might be planting the seed and somebody else might be doing the watering and somebody else might be doing a harvesting.
Sure.
And that may sound really, I don't know, butterflies and rainbows, but that's really what I believe in. And so if you trust your gut and your intent is to love all people, be good to people, I just listen to that.
Yeah.
And our adults are doing the best they can. They show it up imperfectly. Perfect. You know what I mean? Yeah, I am serving imperfect people. And that's okay. And I just have to keep that in mind, doing the best they can every single day.
Do you feel like that we have this unwritten rule for teachers, and teachers do it to themselves? I mean, I was guilty of it, but I'm not allowed to have a bad day. I have to be 10 out of 10 every time I walk in the door. I mean, I felt that. Do you?
Yes.
Do you think teachers feel that, or did you feel that as a teacher?
All the things.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's why I say, we just show up the best we can every day. I'm a recovering perfectionist, is what I say. And I found that my best doesn't look the same every day. So I try to give that grace and understanding to our workforce. There are certain things that we have to do every day, and we have to do to a certain standard of quality or excellence.
Sure.
However,
It's going to be different.
every day.
How many different directions were you pulled in that moment when you were
How many
making
decisions did they have to make,
Yes.
right, in one day?
Yeah. Oh, there's days I come home and I'm like, no more decisions. I even have difficulty making decisions on what I'm going to eat. And I'm eating alone and I have no other influence. And I'm like, I can't decide because I've had so many decisions. And I think that
Decision
impacts-
fatigue,
Yes.
for real.
I wish I had known these things earlier in my career. I think that had I known that, I would have been better mental health wise. I think it took a toll on me because I was the perfectionist. I had to have things right. I had to always have a good day. And I just wore myself out.
Now, that makes sense. I think about mindfulness. I think about relaxation. And somehow in our society, that's been both positive and then somehow got a negative spin. But at the end of the day, I say to people, you deserve to love your brain and take care of your brain. And that's them permission that I'm not perfect, but I'm very deliberate and conscious of how I take care of my mental wellness.
Sure. Yeah.
And part of that is stepping off of some expectation that we have to be a certain way. No one's perfect,
Yeah.
or act a certain way. So if I can relieve some of that, just a little bit of that, we think you and I are on the same page. I wish somebody had given that to me as well.
I would have been a better teacher because I would have accepted who was walking in the door that day, talking about myself.
Yes.
And I always accepted my students. There was never an issue for my students. I was always disappointed in myself. Like, oh, I didn't do that lesson the way I wrote it. Oh, we didn't get to do this part of the lesson. We didn't do that, So my expectations were too high. I didn't allow myself to be human.
That makes great sense.
Yes. That's the thing I love about these podcasts. I feel like it's like my own little personal counseling session. I get to talk to people who have all this knowledge, and it's like, oh, that relates to
It's so reciprocal, isn't it?
Yes, I love it. You say cultivating a culture of belonging. What does that look like in practice in the school?
In a nutshell, it's how does your organization welcome people, like I said, into, even when we're moving people out of the organization, like there's this thing of respect and caring. So belonging is, how do you welcome people? Do they feel respected? Do they feel like they have dignity? Do they feel inclusive? And this could be individually, but I really look at how are we doing that with large groups in our workforce. One of the things we do is we do welcoming activities in all of our large groups, which sounds really basic, but it's an opening where we're doing something very intentional to make sure that everybody in that group feels like they're part of something.
Yeah.
To have somebody to sit next to. Have you ever walked in a room and you're like, where am I supposed to go? But we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Or I don't know anybody, or I'm new, or I've had conflict with that person, and now all of a sudden I'm feeling uncomfortable. The other thing to belonging is to understand the purpose, your purpose here and your impact. And are you as leaders making sure that you know your purpose and your impact?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it starts with an individual why, but what grows from that is how we're setting the vision for everybody in our system to have a sense of what you're doing, how that purpose builds towards the success of every student.
Yeah.
The other thing I've learned is that as public education has changed, talking just to a lot of teachers and workforce groups, it matters. It matters to them how leaders treat other people, how they represent themselves in front of, before it wasn't such a political position. I see that changing. I've seen them demand, look, I need to respect and even like, and I'll use that very generally, the person I work for. So all of that wraps into a sense of belonging. Do I feel like I'm part of the vision, part of the mission, but then do I understand my place in the work?
Yeah.
And how it has a meaning?
And do you feel like most of the staff that you work with truly understand their why? Their own personal why?
I would hope so. And if they don't, I would hope that our leaders pull that thread with them. We talk a lot about from where senior leadership is, with our building and department leaders, like visiting that every year and really connecting that. And I think about a through line to the vision mission of what we're doing to serve kids.
Yes. I know, because I was just thinking, like, when you get out of your why, it's easy to get sucked into things that you don't need to be a part of.
Yes.
And so I would almost think that a yearly focus on the why is necessary. And, I was in public education for 13 years. And I don't remember doing any activity in those 13 years that really focused in on my why. I knew my why. I was very passionate about my why. So my why never got very far from me. But I don't remember doing that as a group. I don't.
You really focus on that. That's like your North Star, right? That's where you're traveling to. I also think it's the core of resilience and hope for people,
Absolutely.
how? Or it just doesn't feel right, right? It becomes what I call ego dystonic. Like what you're doing on the outside and what you're feeling on the inside aren't clicking.
Yes.
Have you ever said out of frustration, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And that inside of you stabilizes and balances it so that you'll try again.
Yes. When I would get in those positions, that what would always pull me back in would be that one little kid and the little face. Just would look at the face and I would be like, this is why I'm doing this. If I don't love on this child in this moment through teaching and educating and, shaping, what am I doing here? So it was those little faces you
Amen.
put me back in.
Amen.
Always. So obviously, this is no secret, recruitment and retention is a hot topic right now. We're talking about it across the nation, but I've talked to very few schools that don't have those issues that we're dealing with. So from your perspective, what really keeps great educators in the field?
I'm going to just go off of my experience. I have been spending the last 2 years just really doing listening tours, talking to educators and classified staff. What makes you stay, kind of those stay put things. And so for us in our district, and from what the literature is showing, twofold. One, it's teaming and leadership. And this may sound harsh, and I don't mean it to, but sometimes teachers will say to me very bluntly, we can get students anywhere. And what they mean by that is, if those other things, if the teaming and the leadership and the support, all the things we've talked about isn't there, because of this need for teachers everywhere, I can get students over here and over here and over here.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that focus really change to what are we providing teachers based on their needs? And that sounds very cliche. You've got to know their needs and you've got to understand. And we've got to talk about hard subjects, which we've already, from stress to mental wellness to behavior. Our children, right? All the things, COVID children. it just, So I hope that answered your question. In our district, the number one thing are their T's, because we talked about that sense of belonging, talked about our why. And when you can develop teams that have a common sense, common thread, of why, and then support each other, for them, that synergy is just magic. Yeah.
I've seen it play out with the students. When students feel like they belong, they're more successful in school.
Yes.
I can imagine how that plays out in adults. And I can imagine it's very difficult to meet the needs of so many different diverse people and diverse backgrounds to make them feel like they belong. That's a big feat to take over from a leader position.
I hear you. I think it goes back to there's so many commonalities and finding those common threads and then leaning into how do we lift each other up.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to belong. We do intentional team building. One of the things we do through our wellness program is each semester buildings actually go off site and we pay our teams to go team build. So whether they're top golfing or bowling, doing art, that's been one of the number one things our teachers have said they really enjoy, because they say, I never get a moment just to have fun, just to be with us people. And so as simple as that sounds, when it's like, know your teachers, know what they need, we're trying really hard to be innovative within a system where you don't have much flexibility for teachers in the workforce.
Yes. And unless you've been in the education field and been in schools, I don't think you understand quite the pull that educators have on them when they're in. When you're an elementary teacher or you've got 25 kids, you may love the team you work with, but there is no time to communicate with them because you've got 25 little ones that you're taking care of, that you've got these demands. So I love that you guys are going outside the walls of the building and still building community within your group, because I think that is vital to give them opportunity.
Heard them say, we spend more time with these people in our team than maybe our partner, our spouse,
Yes.
or our mother. And yet we don't have time to break bread together, to come
To
together.
truly connect, and we want to do that. And when you truly connect with people, you always have more grace with them.
Yes.
And it's like you get to know them on a more personal level, and you're like, when they rolled their eyes or smacked their lips at me the other day, the Cavaliers were just having a bad day because they have, a child at home that they struggle with, birthdays. But you don't know those things if you don't spend time getting to know, though. I'm glad your district is doing that. I think it's very valuable. So another question I had was, what do you wish that every educator truly understand that HR people are doing to support them behind the scenes? Because I know there's so much that goes into it.
From where I sit, the number one thing would be, I got you. And what I mean by that is sometimes I think because HR is also the person that comes in that says, hey, we're not doing this anymore. This isn't working for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, I think my motto is be good to people and I've got you. And what I mean by that is I've got you from the sense of whatever you need, whatever the barrier is, we really are listening. No, I think about how we onboard people. I'd like, other people to know that we're very thoughtful and intentional.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make sure that our workforce coming in feels a sense of belonging, understands all the paperwork? All of those touch points in the beginning are so important.
Yeah.
On people feeling confident as they enter the system. I think the number one thing is you can reach out to HR and ask questions and get what you need, we hope. But it's not like what you said, we're going to problem solve. Often I hear, oh, I don't want to call you. And I'll say, tell me why. Why are you not calling? Because I want to bust up whatever that is.
Right. Well, it sounds to me like, as I'm listening to you describe how you are approaching the HR side of things, you're moving HR from got you to I've got you.
I love that.
Because that's what you think of
that
HR.
reflection.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. You think of HR like, oh, HR's calling me. I'm in trouble.
Yes.
We've
got to change that.
Yes. So I love that you say, I've got you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That made my day.
Good. In your view, you've got a lot of experience in seeing all the different things that have been tried. We swing from one side to the other side on the pendulum on so many things that we do in education. But how can districts stay innovative without overwhelming teachers that are already stretched thin?
I think they're twofold to that. When I think about innovation, I think about really good problem solving of where we are right now in what kids need.
Mm-hmm.
And so innovation can seem overwhelming, kind of this gray, like, what does that mean? And being thoughtful in my answer, and I need to bring teachers along and one, really understand what innovation means from a systems perspective, how we're defining that. And then their voice needs to be at the table because innovation can cause chaos. Chaos isn't always bad, from an innovative perspective. But for example, if you don't have a problem-solving model for innovation, whether that be, I can name all the different human-centered, design thinking kinds of models. If you don't have the teacher's voice there at the table, then what I see is that sometimes leaders are constantly throwing things against the wall to see if it sticks and calling it innovation. And that's what overwhelms teachers.
Yes.
So,
And have they truly listened on what the teacher needed to be innovative about?
So, innovation doesn't mean we're going to do 500 things. It could mean that we're going to be transformative in one area to be more competitive or to bring our kids further when we think about what we want them to look at it as a graduate. Yeah, what do we want critical thinking to look like? Okay, what kind of innovative programs or activities lead to that? But to your question, I think innovation can sound scary if teachers aren't brought along with their voice and with intent of how we're changing things for them. And to me, it is truly just a way that we solve problems. We're innovative. So what model are we using, if that makes sense, too.
And I like the way you said innovative doesn't mean 500 things. No, innovative can be simplistic.
Yes.
Because it is going to cause chaos. Whatever you're doing, anytime you change something, it's going to cause chaos. And it's not bad chaos. It's just a lot of moving parts.
It's a lot of mindsets and skill sets.
Yes. And not everybody has the same skill set or mindset.
So to be very intentional on, are we building the right mindset for that? And then the skill set comes with that, because sometimes unlearning a skill set to be innovative can take just as long, longer, right? As teaching a skills. Yeah. And that's why I think teachers feel overwhelmed, because we're not connecting all of that for them.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. We talk about, and one of the things I'm trained in is that we don't let students practice mistakes, because it's really hard to change that once they practice a mistake. It's harder than just teaching them the first time through. So it's the same kind of concept when you're having them go one direction or they go in the direction and then you're trying to pull them back enough.
They may have been teaching something for 10 years in a certain way.
And they like it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So Grandview, you became a part of the Q360 Workforce Solutions. But from your perspective, what's been the difference that partnership has made with staffing and stabilized environments?
So I think I'll start with Q360 is such a human-centered team. And what I mean by that is I always, from the very beginning, believed that my best interest from HR, where I sit, was being taken into account. Quantum 360 is different from, it was never a sales pitch. It was, how do we help you? How do we help you organize these 15 different vendors? And it's really changed just so much. One, it saves me time. So let's just be real about that.
And we all need more time.
The other thing is public education has changed, and I don't see it going back yet. From a lack of a pipeline, for teachers coming in.
Yeah.
In the state of Missouri, we don't have enough teachers coming out of graduate programs to fill all the positions that are open in the state of Missouri. And so I had been really thinking about what's been running around in my brain is contracted employees will always, for a while, be the native forever.
Yeah.
Part of our workforce group. So how do I change my mindset and get a skill set that I'm able to manage the workforce I have a partner in managing our contract services, and integrate them into my system so that they feel a sense of belonging and that they are part of us and they are not just contracted as staff.
Yes.
And that's the next iteration of HR and public education. And we fought and pushed back on that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And so Quantum, the humans that are selling the product, or our school, the ones that step side by side with you.
Yes.
When something's not going right or there's a celebration. So for Quantum 360, Ty is my rep, and Ty and I talk probably 2 to 3 times a week, and then whomever else needs to help. It is so human-centered and so how to help you that nobody else that I was contracting with could touch. I sign a contract for a PT or an OT, and I don't hear from that company until it's, do you want to up your contract again?
Yes.
So the customer service, the relationship.
Yes. I love that service line has been beneficial to you, and the landscape's changing, just like you said. And it's kind of one of those things where you saw an opportunity to be innovative and go ahead and embrace something that maybe you had pushed back on. And because of that, you're feeling the benefits of that. So that's great.
And what we're not really talking about, and I'm doing a little bit of research on the side, is the disruption and what it does to student achievement when you have the churn of those contracted employees.
Yeah.
The ability to keep somebody all year that is certified in that position versus 3 long-term subs because of whatever. There's this opportunity gap to really understand how much this is benefiting student achievement for districts. And I'm really interested in that and really looking into that, because I think that is what Q360 really offers, is that stability over time with a more qualified employee that we haven't even scratched the surface on yet.
And I'm a data nerd, so that gets me excited that you're looking at that side of the data. It's like, oh, yes, I can't wait to see your results. Okay, I saved the very last topic for something that I stumbled onto when we were having a casual conversation. You talked about your passion project or the legacy that you were doing. Tell me about what that is.
Yes. So I can't even mention this without mentioning my incredible superintendent and leader in Grandview, Dr. Cody Rodriguez. And he is such a welcomer of, hey, you have an idea? He will often say, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. So how do we be more intentional about what we do and how that meets the needs of our students? So we are in the process of renovating an elementary school for an autism program. And what is so incredible is that every square inch of this program is being designed for autism kids. And right now, although they have great classrooms and great teachers, they don't have a space that's just designed for them.
Yeah.
From the texture of the wall to the kind of lighting we have to the sentry to how they're going to have this outdoor space. When I think about impact, it really incites me because they will have their own space and they will for years to come.
Yes.
And so it will really stabilize that program and really focus on sense of belonging.
That's exact. So I have goosebumps when you were just describing the building, because I thought oftentimes our kids that are severely impacted don't feel like they belong in our school settings, and you're creating an environment specifically for their needs, and they belong. And I'm getting goosebumps again just thinking about that. To me, that's the why. That's what we do and why we do it.
Agree.
So this is an exciting thing. When does this project?
So we're still in the design phase, and construction will start springish. And the idea is that it'll be open and ready to go at the beginning of next year. Just the dreaming phase took a whole year. That took
only imagine.
last year. You have to start big, and then here's the budget. But the budget is good, and the dreaming produced this wonderful plan. I was able to meet with our autism parents who were, change. Yeah, scary. And they had lots of questions. And by the time you were done, they were like, wow, this is really going to happen. Yeah. And I'm like, it's really going to happen for your kids. Yes.
That is so exciting. I cannot wait to come and tour the facilities.
I can't wait to have you.
Oh, my goodness. And anytime we create a space for people to belong, we're doing good.
I agree.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been great getting to hear more about what you're doing in the district, and I want to come back out when you get the place done. I want to bring the camera crew, and I want to see it. Let the viewers see that.
Yeah, they would love that. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Queued Up. Follow and subscribe to stay queued up for what's next.